The West Sea of Korea at 3:14 a.m. was brown and shallow and completely without light on the northern side of the line. The northern limit line ran east to west across the Yellow Sea, an invisible boundary drawn by the United Nations Command in 1953 that North Korea had never formally accepted and had violated at irregular intervals for 70 years. On the southern side, the water was navigable and legally defined and occasionally lit by the distant glow of South Korean coastal installations. On the northern side, the water was the same water, same depth, same temperature, same brown silt from the Han River Delta. But it was dark in the way that only a coastline without a functioning power grid could be dark. The North Korean mainland at 3:14 a.m. was a wall of black at the northern horizon. The U.S. destroyer was on Station 12, nautical miles south of the NLL, in support of a joint U.S.-ROK maritime exercise. The ship's overnight assignment was patrol and presence, hold the southern patrol box, maintain radar coverage of the NLL approaches, report any unusual activity north of the line to the Combined Operations Center in Seoul. The kind of watch that accumulated hours without incident and produced nothing more than a log entry confirming the absence of events. At 3:14 a.m., the sonar operator in the CIC reported a contact, not on the radar, on the sonar. Bridge CIC. Sonar contact bearing 028, range estimated 600 yards. Contact is intermittent. Classification uncertain, possible biologics, possible mechanical. Signal is weak and inconsistent. I'm working the classification, 600 yards, not 6,000, not 6 nautical miles, 600 yards. That was the distance between the destroyer's hull and a contact that may or may not have been a living thing in the water. 600 yards in the West Sea at 3:14 a.m. in brown water with thermal layers that played games with sound propagation, in a sea averaging 44 meters depth with enough ambient biological noise to make acoustic classification a sustained exercise in careful elimination rather than a quick lookup. The officer of the deck reached for the intercom without looking away from the sonar operator's display on the bridge repeater. The contact trace was faint, intermittent, and ambiguous. It could be a whale. It could be a thermal layer artifact, sound, bending around a temperature discontinuity to produce a false return at a specific bearing. It could be a North Korean semi-submersible infiltration craft, an electric motor vessel specifically designed to present exactly this kind of ambiguous sonar signature in exactly this depth of water in exactly this acoustic environment. Captain, to the bridge. At 3:16 a.m., the captain stepped onto the bridge. He went directly to the sonar display repeater and studied the contact trace for 30 seconds. The trace was visible, a thin, irregular line on the waterfall display, appearing and disappearing across a narrow frequency band. It was moving. Not fast, barely registering speed above ambient drift, but the bearing was stable and the range, over the 2 minutes since first report, had closed from 600 yards to 580 yards. It was closing. "What's the classification confidence?" he asked through the intercom. "Sir, I cannot classify with confidence. I have eliminated large biologics based on frequency signature. I cannot eliminate small biologics, porpoise, dolphin, small whale. I cannot eliminate semi-submersible mechanical contact. The frequency overlap between those two categories in this water column, and this depth is too close. I need more time or active sonar. Active sonar. The option that would resolve the classification in seconds by sending a sound pulse through the water and measuring the return with precision. Active sonar was also the option that revealed the destroyer's position and capability to everything within 40 nautical miles, and that, in the context of the northern limit line, could be characterized by North Korea as a provocative acoustic operation in contested waters. The captain did not immediately authorize active sonar. He authorized a sonobuoy deployment. Deploy sonobuoy pattern bearing 028 400-yard radius. Passive only. I want the contact enclosed. 3 sonobuoys entered the water at 3:18 a.m., positioned to surround the contact at a 400-yard radius. Each was a passive acoustic sensor, listening but not transmitting. The array would give the CIC 3 independent acoustic perspectives simultaneously, allowing triangulation without broadcasting a single sound pulse. It would take approximately 4 minutes for the sonobuoys to reach operational depth and begin transmitting. 4 minutes. The contact was now at 560 yards and still closing slowly. At its current speed, it would reach the 400-yard inner radius of the sonobuoy pattern in approximately 11 minutes. CPA estimate 200 yards. Time unknown due to inconsistent speed data. At 3:20 a.m., the first friction event arrived. The West Sea's bottom topology created an acoustic shadow zone, a region where sound propagated at reduced efficiency due to the shallow depth, the temperature gradient in the upper water column, and the soft silt bottom that absorbed acoustic energy rather than reflecting it. The destroyer's hull-mounted sonar was operating at the edge of its reliable performance envelope. The sonobuoys, once deployed, would partially address this by placing sensors at multiple depths. But until they reached operational depth, the hull sonar remained the primary sensor, operating at a confidence level the sonar operator had already characterized as insufficient for classification. In the 4 minutes between sonobuoy deployment and the sonobuoys reaching operational depth, the contact would close from 560 yards to approximately 480 yards. At 480 yards, inside the sonobuoy pattern's outer ring, the array would be capturing it from multiple angles. At 480 yards, it would also be closer to the hull than most acoustic classification problems the crew had encountered in exercises. Training scenarios began classification at ranges measured in nautical miles. This contact had appeared at 600 yards and had not stopped. Contact now at 530 yards, bearing 028. Speed estimate 1 to 2 knots. Bearing has not changed. Contact appears to be on a direct approach heading. Direct approach heading. The phrase was neutral in its delivery and unambiguous in its meaning. The captain stood at the bridge window looking at a surface that appeared completely empty in the darkness. The contact was 530 yards away. If it was a small cetacean, he was looking at the ocean 530 yards from an unremarkable marine mammal. If it was a North Korean semi-submersible infiltration craft, he was looking at the ocean 530 yards from a vessel specifically designed to be invisible on the surface and ambiguous on sonar, crewed by personnel whose mission objectives were not navigational. The strategic context was specific and documented. North Korea had used semi-submersible and underwater infiltration assets in the West Sea on multiple occasions. The typical operational profile: departure from a North Korean West Coast port, crossing the NLL at minimal surface profile, proceeding south to a target area. The asset was not designed for sustained engagement. It was designed for approach, objective, and withdrawal. Whatever its objective might be in the destroyer's patrol box at 3:20 a.m. was a question the captain could not yet answer. He was in the process of answering it through the only means available to him: sensors, time, and careful management of what he revealed to the contact and when. CPA estimate revised, 190 yards. Time to CPA, 9 minutes. At 3:22 a.m., the sonobuoys reached operational depth and began transmitting. The CIC sonar operator had 3 independent acoustic feeds, arranged at 120-degree intervals around the contact at 400-yard radius. He began triangulation analysis immediately. The captain had given him 2 minutes for a preliminary classification. The 2 minutes were quiet in the specific way the West Sea at 3:22 a.m. could be quiet. The ship's ventilation, the distant hum of the main engines at patrol speed, the mild roll from a 2-foot swell, the click of the sonar display updating at its scan interval. The sonar operator in the CIC worked with the concentration of someone who understood that the number he was going to produce in the next 120 seconds would inform a decision that had no good options and several bad ones. At 3:23 a.m., he produced the number. Bridge, CIC. Preliminary classification from sonobuoy array. I can now eliminate biologics. Signal frequency profile and propulsion signature are inconsistent with any cetacean in this region. Contact is mechanical. Contact is electrically propelled based on frequency absence in the combustion range. Contact displacement consistent with semi-submersible platform in the 3 to 6 meter waterline length range. Classification confidence, moderate to high. I cannot provide a flag of origin. Eliminate biologics. Mechanical. Electrically propelled. Semi-submersible. The contact was not a whale. It was a vessel. It was a vessel that ran on electric motors, had a waterline length consistent with a known North Korean infiltration platform category, and was 500 yards away from a U.S. destroyer on a direct approach heading in the West Sea at 3:23 a.m. The NLL was 12 nautical miles north. The contact had come from the north. The contact was still coming. CPA estimate revised 180 yards. Time to CPA 8 minutes. The sonar operator's classification was moderate to high confidence, not confirmed. The difference mattered. The captain did not have definitive identification. He would not get it without active sonar, which he had not yet authorized. He would get closer to it with time, and time was the variable that was not on his side. He made 3 decisions simultaneously and issued them without pause between them. Increase speed to 12 knots. Come right to course 135. The course change moved the destroyer away from the contact's approach vector, not retreating, repositioning. The CPA geometry was about to change. Light up the underwater telephone, UQC broadcast all frequencies. Transmit, unidentified underwater contact. You are within the security zone of a United States warship. Surface immediately and identify yourself. And RHIB crew to stand by. Do not launch. Stand by. The UQC, underwater telephone, was a through-water acoustic communication system. Its broadcast would propagate through the water column for several miles. If the contact was a North Korean semi-submersible, its crew would hear it. After 3:24 a.m., whatever was 470 yards from the destroyer could not claim it had not been warned. The course change altered the CPA geometry. The destroyer was no longer moving toward the contact's expected intercept position. CPA revised, 280 yards and opening. The contact, if it held its course and speed, would pass 280 yards off the destroyer's beam rather than closing to 180 yards off the bow, if it held its course. The contact's response to the maneuver would be informative. At 3:25 a.m., the second friction event arrived. The ROK Navy patrol vessel closest to the destroyer's position, 11 nautical miles to the southeast, reported a sudden loss of its primary navigation radar due to an unexplained system fault. Primary radar down, switching to backup, estimated restoration 5 to 8 minutes. The ROK vessel could not maneuver safely toward the destroyer at speed during those 5 to 8 minutes. It would not be available to assist before the contact situation resolved. The destroyer was managing this alone. In the CIC, the absence of the ROK vessel was logged and acknowledged, and the watch team adjusted their coordination plan accordingly, and they continued working the contact. The acoustic picture was their domain and would remain so regardless of what the ROK patrol vessel's radar was doing 11 nautical miles to the southeast. The 2-minute disruption to coordination was real. It was managed. The work continued. At 3:26 a.m., the sonar operator reported that the contact had adjusted course. Contact has altered course. Previous heading was direct approach bearing from us 028. New heading, contact is adjusting to maintain a constant bearing from our new position. Contact appears to be tracking our course change. Tracking the course change. The contact had detected, through its own sensors, through the UQC broadcast that confirmed the destroyer's awareness through direct observation if it was near the surface, that the destroyer had maneuvered, and it had responded by adjusting to maintain a constant bearing on it. That specific response pattern was the navigational signature of a contact treating the destroyer as a target to be tracked rather than an obstacle to be avoided. CPA estimate, updated for new geometry, 230 yards. Contact speed increased to estimated 2.5 knots. The captain had been at the bridge window for 12 minutes. He had spoken 7 times. He had consumed nothing. His eyes moved from the sonar display repeater to the surface of the water and back, reading both simultaneously, waiting for them to converge on an answer. The data was approaching, but had not yet delivered. He was not a man who expressed uncertainty physically. His posture at the center window was the same posture it had been for 12 minutes, and it would remain that posture for the remaining time until the answer arrived. He had a contact that was mechanical, electrically propelled, semi-submersible, tracking his maneuvering and 400 yards away. He had one tool he had not yet used. At 3:27 a.m., the captain authorized active sonar, 1 ping. Single pulse active mode, full power. The SQS-53 bow-mounted sonar sent a single acoustic pulse through the water column at 3:27:14 a.m. It reached the contact at 380 yards in 0.25 seconds. The return arrived 0.25 seconds later. The sonar operator had the return processed in 4 seconds. Contact confirmed. Range 380 yards. Depth 8 to 10 meters. Contact is near surface, consistent with semi-submersible at minimal keel depth. Hull returns consistent with fiberglass or composite construction. Contact is approximately 6 meters in length. Speed 2.5 knots. Bearing 019, 6 meters. Fiberglass or composite. Near surface. A single active sonar pulse at full power at 380 yards was not subtle. Its propagation through the water column would be detectable by hydrophone systems throughout Korean waters. North Korean shore-based acoustic monitoring would have it. Every acoustic sensor in a 40 nautical mile radius would register it. The ping said, "We found it." Whatever was in the water at 380 yards, we found it. At 3:27 a.m., the contact surfaced, not quickly, not urgently. The sonar trace shallowed over 40 seconds. 9 meters, 7 meters, 4 meters, 2 meters. And then the radar picture, which had shown nothing at that bearing, resolved a contact at 380 yards. Small. Low. Just above the surface return clutter. The officer of the deck raised his binoculars and found it in 8 seconds. A low, dark shape barely above the waterline. No navigation lights. Stationary now. Whatever calculation had been running aboard it for the past 14 minutes had produced a new output at 3:27:14 a.m. when the sonar pulse arrived. The output was surface. The captain transmitted on the UQC and simultaneously on the bridge-to-bridge radio on the international distress frequency. Unidentified vessel that is surfaced at bearing 019, range 380 yards. This is a United States warship. You have been identified. Maintain your current position. Do not submerge. Do not approach. Identify yourself and your registry. No response on either channel. The ROK Navy patrol vessel restored its navigation radar at 3:28 a.m. and was immediately briefed via tactical circuit. The ROK vessel altered course toward the destroyer's position, estimated arrival 18 minutes. At 3:30 a.m., the surfaced contact began moving, not toward the destroyer. Away, north, on a heading consistent with a return toward the NLL. Speed 3 knots. "Contact is heading north," the officer of the deck reported. He lowered the binoculars. The captain made no move to intercept. The RHIB crew received a stand down. The Seahawk launched at 3:31 a.m. for a surveillance overflight at 500 feet, sufficient altitude to track the contact and document its withdrawal without closing to a distance that would change the nature of the encounter from observation to interception. The Seahawk's camera documented the asset clearly in the improving pre-dawn light. A semi-submersible, approximately 6 meters, low profile, composite construction, no visible markings, no flag, no navigation lights, 2 personnel visible in the minimally exposed cockpit, heading north at 3 knots toward the NLL. No markings, no flag, no registry. The contact crossed the NLL at approximately 3:50 a.m. The Seahawk tracked it to the line, confirmed the crossing, and held station at the NLL for 4 minutes. Then, the captain authorized recovery. The ROK patrol vessel arrived at 3:51 a.m. The brief: semi-submersible, approximately 6 meters, electrically propelled, composite construction, no markings, crossed NLL, northbound 3:50 a.m. Flag of origin, not confirmed. Behavior consistent with North Korean infiltration platform operational profile, not confirmed. The brief used that phrase because it was accurate. Consistent with and confirmed were not the same phrase, and in a situation that would become an intelligence report, a diplomatic notification, and a joint US-ROK operational debrief, the precision mattered. No one on the bridge said anything for a long moment after the Seahawk landed. The sonar operator completed the contact log at 3:55 a.m. Contact crossed NLL, northbound 0350 local. Surveillance terminated at NLL. Contact not confirmed as DPRK national asset. Contact behavior consistent with DPRK semi-submersible operational profile. No weapons employed. No personnel injuries. No hull contact. Encounter log forwarded to 7th Fleet Intelligence and ROK Combined Forces Command per protocol. The officer of the deck stood at the port bridge window and watched the pre-dawn light begin to differentiate the water from the sky. The NLL was invisible. It was always invisible. The water north of it and south of it was the same water. But the darkness on the northern side was the specific darkness of a coast that did not turn its lights on in the morning the way the Korean coast to the south did. The sun was not yet up, but the difference was already legible. He had not eaten since 2200 local. He had not sat since the contact was reported. He turned from the window and noted the course in the log. He straightened his collar. He had been straightening his collar at the end of difficult watches since his first deployment. The collar didn't need straightening. He straightened it anyway. The captain stood at the chart table and confirmed the ship's position. The destroyer was still in its assigned patrol box, 12 nautical miles south of the NLL. A contact had approached from the north, been classified through passive and active acoustic means, been hailed on 2 frequencies, surfaced when illuminated by a single sonar pulse, and withdrawn north across the line. The destroyer had not moved north of its assigned patrol area. The patrol box was intact. Resume normal watch rotation. Sonar operator, outstanding work. Encounter report to 7th Fleet and Combined Operations, Seoul. ROK liaison request for full acoustic data package, coordinate with the intel officer. He paused at the chart table for a moment. We'll have company from Seoul by morning. He was correct. At 0630, a joint US-ROK intelligence team arrived by helicopter for a debrief that lasted 4 hours. The acoustic data package was assessed as the highest confidence semi-submersible signature data collected in West Sea conditions in 3 years. That was a byproduct of what had happened at 3:14 a.m. It was not why the watch team had done what it did. They had done it because the contact was there, and the line was 12 miles north, and the protocol was clear. The patrol continued either way. The record assembled here speaks in the language the ocean keeps. One unidentified subsurface contact appeared at 600 yards from a U.S. destroyer on overnight patrol in the West Sea of Korea at 3:14 a.m., bearing from the direction of the northern limit line. Contact was electrically propelled, semi-submersible, approximately 6 meters overall length, composite construction, no visible markings. Time from first detection to active sonar authorization, 13 minutes. Sonobuoy assets deployed, 3 passive sensors. Active sonar pulses transmitted, 1. Range at active sonar pulse, 380 yards. Time from pulse to contact surfacing, 40 seconds. UQC broadcasts transmitted, 2. Bridge-to-bridge broadcasts, 1. Responses received, 0. ROK coordination maintained throughout, yes. RHIB standby activated, yes. RHIB launched, no. Seahawk surveillance overflight, yes. Contact track to NLL crossing at 3:50 a.m. Weapons authorized, no. Weapons released, no. Intercept conducted, no. Contact confirmed as DPRK national asset, not confirmed. Behavior consistent with DPRK semi-submersible operational profile, yes. Course alterations in response to contact, 1 repositioning maneuver. Patrol box abandoned, no. Patrol mission completed, yes. The West Sea does not announce its intentions. It holds them in the silt and the thermoclines in the shallow water that makes acoustic classification a 37-minute exercise in elimination. The contact came from the north, approached to 380 yards, surfaced on a single pulse, and went back the way it came. What it was looking for, it did not find. What we were looking for, we found at 3:27 a.m. That is the record. The patrol continued.